The hunters gambit the morning sun, cast long shadows through the reinforced glass walls of combat. Strategy Classroom Delta 7 at Zenith Academy. This wasn't just any educational institution. It was the galaxy's premier military training facility, where the brightest minds from dozens of worlds came to learn the art of interstellar warfare and diplomacy. Marcus Steele sat in his usual spot near the back corner, quietly reviewing tactical formations on his datapad. The 24-year-old human had arrived at Zenith 6 months ago, transferred from Earth's Special Operations Command. Unlike most cadets who came straight from their home planets, Marcus carried himself with the easy confidence of someone who had already seen real combat. Professor Yillan floated at the front of the classroom, her translucent energy form shifting between colors as she spoke. The Etherean's voice resonated directly in the students' minds through psychic projection. Today, we examine asymmetrical warfare tactics. When facing an opponent with superior numbers or technology, unconventional approaches often determine victory. The diverse class of 30 students listened intently. Massive Leviathans carved from living stone sat beside graceful Sylvani, whose bark-like skin rustled softly with each breath. Crystalline Xerians refracted the morning light into rainbow patterns across the walls, while sleek Aquarian exchange students kept their environmental suits humming quietly. Zara Munispa, a Sylvani cadet with leaves that changed color with her emotions, raised one branch-like arm. Professor, what about species that specialize in stealth assassination? How do conventional forces counter enemies they cannot detect? The question sparked interested murmurs throughout the room. Most students came from worlds where warfare meant massive fleets facing each other in open space or armies clashing across planetary surfaces. The concept of invisible death striking from shadows was foreign to their cultural understanding. Professor, Yilan's energy form brightened with approval. An excellent question, Cadet Moonwhisper. The Vorthok Empire, for example, has built their entire military philosophy around stealth and precision elimination. Their assassins can. The classroom door exploded inward with a sound like breaking thunder. Students screamed and dove for cover as metal fragments scattered across the room. Through the smoking doorway stepped a figure that made every cadet's blood freeze in terror. Nearly 7 feet tall, the creature moved with fluid grace despite its massive frame. Scales the color of deep space covered its reptilian body, and twin rows of razor-sharp teeth gleamed in a mouth designed for tearing flesh. But most terrifying of all were its solid black orbs that seemed to absorb light itself. Assassin had somehow breached Zenith Academy's legendary security. "I am Crystal of the Shadowfang clan," the creature announced in a voice like grinding metal. "I seek the human called Marcus Steele." Panic erupted through the classroom. Goliathan students, despite their natural armor plating, began backing toward the rear exits. Sylvani cadets released clouds of distressed pheromones that made the air thick and sweet. Even the usually composed Xerians began rapid-fire chattering in their crystalline language. Professor Yilan's energy form flared bright red with alarm. "Security breach. All students evacuate immediately." But her psychic distress call couldn't penetrate the Academy's emergency shielding, which had automatically activated when the door was destroyed. Marcus remained seated, calmly closing his datapad. Every other student in the room was either fleeing or cowering, but the human simply looked up at the assassin with mild interest. "That would be me," he said in a conversational tone. "Though I have to say, your entrance could use some work. A bit dramatic, don't you think?" Crystal-esque black eyes fixed on the human with predatory focus. You dare mock me, Deathworlder. You killed my clutch brother Vexstar during the Kepler station incident. Honor demands blood payment. Several students who hadn't yet reached the exits froze at this revelation. The Kepler station incident had made headlines across the galaxy 6 months ago. A Vorthok raiding party had attacked the civilian mining facility, and somehow all 17 assassins had been eliminated by station security, but the official reports had been classified at the highest levels. Marcus stood up slowly, his movements casual and unthreatening. Ah, Vexter. Tall guy, liked to play with his food before killing it. Yeah, I remember him. The human stepped into the aisle between the desks, placing himself directly between the assassin and the students still trying to escape. He was torturing a family of miners when I found him. Children, too. Real, honorable stuff. The assassin's throat vibrated with a low hiss that sounded like steam escaping from a broken pipe. You know nothing of honor, human. My brother was claiming worthy prey. Your species breeds like insects across the galaxy, consuming resources, spreading your weakness to other worlds. We cull the herd as nature intended. Zara Moonwhisper, who had pressed herself against the far wall with several other students, watched in fascination as Marcus shook his head sadly. See, that's where you're wrong, the human said. We don't breed like insects. Insects work together for the good of the colony. They sacrifice themselves to protect their young. They build things that last. Marcus took another step forward, and something in his posture shifted subtly. What you do isn't natural selection. It's just bullying with claws. Crystal's massive frame tensed as every predatory instinct he possessed suddenly screamed danger. This was impossible. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as diplomats and traders, soft creatures who preferred negotiation to violence. They were prey species that had somehow achieved flight, despite their obvious weakness. But the human standing before him radiated something that made the assassin's scales ripple with unease. Crystal had hunted across 17 different worlds, eliminating targets from dozens of species. He knew the scent of fear, the posture of prey, the helpless trembling that preceded death. This human displayed none of those signs. You seem confused, Marcus observed, his tone almost gentle. Let me help you understand something about humans that didn't make it into your intelligence reports. The human rolled his shoulders in a casual stretch that somehow looked more threatening than any battle stance. We're not prey species. We're persistence hunters. We chase our food until it collapses from exhaustion. Then we kill it with rocks and sticks. The remaining students in the classroom began to notice something strange happening. The Vorthok assassin, a creature bred from birth to kill without hesitation, was backing away from the human, not retreating tactically, but actually stepping backward as some primal part of his brain recognized a superior predator. That's impossible, Crystal snarled, but his voice carried less certainty than before. Humans are weak. Your world produces diplomats and merchants, not warriors. Marcus laughed, and the sound sent chills through every person in the room. Oh, we produce plenty of diplomats and merchants. But do you know why Earth is called a death world, Crix? The human's eyes seemed to grow darker as he spoke. It's not because of the weather or the gravity or the poisonous atmosphere. It's because for millions of years, everything on Earth tried to kill everything else, and we're what survived. Professor Yillen, who had been preparing to shield her students with her energy form, found herself paralyzed by what she was witnessing. In all her centuries of teaching military tactics, She had never seen psychological warfare employed so effectively. The human wasn't just facing the assassin, he was dismantling him mentally. A young Goliathan whose stone-like body made him nearly indestructible, whispered to the Sylvani beside him. How is the human making the Vorthok afraid? They don't feel fear. Zara's leaves had shifted to deep purple, a color that indicated profound confusion. I don't think he's making him afraid, she whispered back. I think he's reminding him what fear is. Asterisk. Crystal's claws extended fully, each one capable of slicing through steel plating. Enough words. You will die for dishonoring my clan. The assassin launched himself forward with blinding speed, covering the distance between them in less than a second. What happened next would be analyzed by military strategists for decades to come. Marcus didn't dodge, or run, or raise his hands to defend himself. Instead, he stepped forward to meet the attack, moving with a fluid precision that spoke of countless hours of training. His right hand caught Crystal's leading wrist, redirecting the claw strike past his head. His left elbow drove into the assassin's solar plexus with surgical accuracy, targeting the one vulnerable spot in Vorthok anatomy that few species even knew existed. Crystal doubled over, gasping for breath he couldn't catch. Before he could recover, Marcus had moved behind him and applied what Earth's special forces called a compliance hold, a joint lock that could control even the strongest opponent without permanent damage. Now then, Marcus said calmly, as if he were discussing the weather instead of restraining a legendary killer. Let's talk about your brother Vexter. He didn't die because I was stronger or faster or better armed. He died because he chose to hunt children instead of warriors. The classroom fell into absolute silence, except for the assassin's labored breathing. Every student watched in amazement as the human maintained perfect control over a creature that could theoretically tear him apart. Your clan teaches that strength comes from killing the weak, Marcus continued, but that's not strength, that's cowardice, dressed up with fancy words about honor and tradition. His grip tightened slightly, and Crystal winced. Real strength is protecting those who can't protect themselves. It's standing between the darkness and the innocent, even when you're afraid. Crystal managed to hiss out a response. You, know nothing, of our ways, I know enough, Marcus replied. I know your species respects strength above all else. I know you believe might makes right. And I know that deep down you understand exactly what I am. The human leaned closer, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. I'm what humans become when something threatens our pack. For the first time in his life, Crystal of the Shadowfang clan felt the cold touch of genuine terror. This wasn't the mindless aggression of a territorial predator or the desperate violence of cornered prey. This was something far more dangerous, controlled lethality wielded by intelligence that had learned to hunt thinking prey. Marcus released the joint lock and stepped back, giving the assassin room to stand. So here's what's going to happen, he said, his tone becoming conversational again. You're going to leave this academy. You're going to return to your clan. And you're going to tell them that humans aren't prey animals. His eyes met the Vorthok's dark gaze. We're the thing that hunts the hunters. As Part 1 came to its climactic close, the students of Zenith Academy realized they had just witnessed something that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. The soft diplomats and peaceful traders had revealed the truth that lay beneath their civilization's polite exterior. They were survivors of a world that had tried to kill them for millions of years, and they had learned to fight back with tools no other species possessed: intelligence, adaptability, and an absolute refusal to let evil triumph over innocence. The Predators, Truther Academies, emergency klaxons continued wailing as security teams flooded the corridors outside classroom Delta 7. Through the reinforced walls, students could hear the heavy footsteps of Goliathan guards and the distinctive hum of Etherian energy weapons charging. But inside the classroom, an entirely different kind of battle was taking place. Crystal straightened slowly, his massive frame seeming somehow diminished despite his size. The assassin's black eyes darted between Marcus and the exits, calculating odds with the cold precision of a professional killer, but for the first time since his childhood trials in the Shadowfang proving grounds, those calculations weren't coming out in his favor. "You speak of protection," Crystal said, his voice losing some of its earlier menace, "but you killed 17 of my clan brothers at Kepler Station. 17 warriors, not children. Where was your protection then?" Marcus nodded thoughtfully, as if the question deserved serious consideration. "You want the full story? Fine. But everyone else should hear this too." He gestured toward the students who remained pressed against the far walls, too terrified to move but too fascinated to look away. "Come on, people. This is the kind of tactical analysis Professor Yilon usually charges tuition for." Zara Moonwhisper found herself stepping forward despite every instinct screaming at her to run. The Sylvanis' leaves had shifted to a deep blue. That indicated intense curiosity overriding her fear. The news reports said it was a coordinated defense by station security. They never mentioned a single human, because nobody wanted to explain how one guy with standard equipment took down an entire Vorthok kill team. Marcus replied. He kept his position between the students and Crystal, but his posture remained relaxed and non-threatening. Kepler Station had a population of 8,000 civilians, miners, scientists, their families. When the Vorthok attacked, they weren't going for military targets or strategic resources. Throke's stone-like features shifted into a frown. Then what? Did they want? Crystal's throat vibrated with what might have been embarrassment. The station had been marked for culling. Too many weak species breeding beyond their natural limits. The Vorthok Council decided to thin the population before their weakness could spread. Professor Yillen's energy form flickered with disgust. "You mean they were hunting civilians for sport?" "Not sport," the assassin corrected. "Duty. The galaxy is full of species that multiply without purpose, consuming resources while contributing nothing of value. We eliminate the excess to maintain natural balance." Marcus let out a laugh that held no humor whatsoever. "Natural balance. Right. Let me tell you about natural balance." He began walking slowly around the classroom, his movements casual, but somehow predatory. Humans spent most of our evolutionary history as prey animals. We got hunted by things with bigger teeth, stronger claws, better senses. For millions of years, we were just smart monkeys trying not to get eaten. The students listened with rapt attention as Marcus continued. "But here's the thing about being prey. You either learn to survive or you become extinct. And survival isn't just about being stronger or faster. It's about being smarter, more adaptable, more willing to do whatever it takes to protect your pack." Crystal shifted uneasily. "Humans are weak. Your physical capabilities are inferior to most galactic species." "You're absolutely right," Marcus agreed. "I can't run as fast as a Sylvani, I'm not as strong as a Goliathan, and I definitely can't turn invisible like your people. But I can do something none of you can." He stopped walking and fixed the assassin with an intense stare. I can think like prey and hunt like a predator at the same time. Zara's leaves rustled with confusion. What does that mean? It means, Marcus said, turning to address the entire class, that when 17 Vorthok assassins attacked Kepler Station, I didn't try to fight them fair. I used every dirty trick, every psychological weakness, and every environmental advantage I could find. His expression grew cold, because they weren't there for an honorable battle between warriors. They were there to murder children. The human walked over to one of the intact display screens and activated it with a gesture. Security footage from Kepler Station began playing, showing the interior of the mining facility 6 months ago. The timestamp indicated it was taken during what should have been the station's night cycle. This is security camera 7 in the residential sector, Marcus narrated as grainy images showed families sleeping in their quarters. At 0347 station time, Vorthok infiltrators began systematically eliminating non-combatants. Men, women, children. Matter. They were working through the habitat modules, one by one. Crystal watched the footage with an expression that might have been pride. Efficient elimination of inferior genetics. My clan brothers performed their duty with honor. Honor. Marcus turned the screen toward the assassin. Watch this part. The footage showed a Vorthok warrior, presumably Vextar, cornering a family of 4 in their quarters. The parents had placed themselves between the assassin and 2 small children who couldn't have been more than 5 years old. Instead of killing them quickly, Vextar was deliberately prolonging their terror, feeding off their fear. Your brother spent 47 minutes torturing that family, Marcus said quietly. Not for information, not for tactical advantage, just because he enjoyed their suffering. The human's voice grew harder. That's when I decided the Vorthok had forgotten the difference between being predators and being monsters. Professor Yillen's energy form dimmed with sorrow. How did you stop 17 trained assassins by yourself? Marcus smiled grimly. I cheated. See, Vorthok warriors are incredible individual fighters, but they've never faced an enemy that fights. Like a human, they expect either cowering prey or direct confrontation from other predator species. They don't expect psychological warfare combined with asymmetrical tactics. The security footage shifted to show the station's industrial sections. Marcus pointed to various locations as he spoke. First, I used the station's atmospheric controls to flood the Vorthok infiltration routes with pheromone compounds from the agricultural section. Suddenly, your perfect stealth assassins were leaving scent trails a child could follow. Crystal's scales rippled with what looked like surprise. You turned our own hunting instincts against us. Just getting started, Marcus continued. Then, I hacked the station's communication system and started broadcasting ultrasonic frequencies that interfere with Vorthok echolocation. Your people rely on those sonic pulses for spatial awareness in dark environments. Take that away, and you're basically fighting blind. Throck leaned forward with interest. You disabled their natural advantages. That's the thing about human warfare, Marcus explained. We don't fight to prove we're stronger or more skilled. We fight to win, period. And winning means making sure the enemy can't use their best weapons. He gestured to the screen again. After that, it became a game of patience. I used the station's maintenance tunnels to move around unseen, picking off isolated Vorthok one by one. Classic persistence, hunting wear down the prey until they make mistakes. The footage showed a series of encounters where lone Vorthok assassins found themselves isolated and confused, their usual advantages neutralized by simple human ingenuity. environmental hazards, redirected security systems, and psychological pressure combined to turn the hunters into the hunted. But Vexstar was different, Marcus said, his tone becoming more serious. He was smart enough to realize what was happening. So he decided to draw me out by threatening the civilians I was protecting. The screen showed the final confrontation in the station's main habitat dome. That's when I learned something important. About Vorthok psychology. Crystal's black eyes fixed on the human with intense focus. What did you learn? I learned that your people respect strength, but you fear unpredictability. When Vexstar realized he was facing an enemy who didn't follow any of the combat patterns he'd been trained to counter, he started making mistakes. And in a fight between trained warriors, mistakes are usually fatal. The footage showed the climactic battle between Marcus and Vexstar. It wasn't the dramatic clash of warriors that galactic entertainment usually portrayed. Instead, it was a brutal, efficient engagement that lasted less than 3 minutes. Marcus used every environmental advantage, every psychological pressure, and every dirty trick he could think of to neutralize a superior opponent. Your brother died because he chose to threaten innocents instead of facing me directly, Marcus concluded. If he'd challenged me to single combat, he probably would have won. Vorthok warriors are faster, stronger, and better equipped than humans. But, he thought, terrorizing civilians would give him an advantage. Crystal stared at the screen for several long moments. You dishonored him by refusing a proper battle. No, Marcus said firmly. He dishonored himself by hunting children. Everything that happened after that was just consequence. The human turned to face the entire class. This is what Professor Yillen was trying to teach you about asymmetrical warfare. When facing a superior enemy, you don't win by being stronger. You win by being smarter, more adaptable, and more willing to do whatever it takes to protect what matters. Zara's leaves had shifted to a thoughtful green. So humans aren't actually stronger than other species. Physically, no. Most galactic species could beat us in direct combat. But we have something that evolution gave us during millions of years of being prey animals. Marcus tapped his temple. We have the ability to think our way out of impossible situations. And we have something else that's even more dangerous. What's that? Throck asked. Marcus looked directly at Crystal as he answered. We refuse to give up, ever. When a human decides to protect something, we'll keep fighting until either we win or we're physically incapable of continuing. That's not strategy or tactics, that's just human nature. The assassin's massive frame seemed to shrink slightly. This is why the Council ordered no further human targets. They said your species was ... unpredictable. Smart move, Marcus agreed. Because here's what your council probably didn't tell you humans. Don't just fight to protect ourselves. We fight to protect anyone who can't protect themselves. That family on Kepler Station, they weren't even human. But they were innocent, and someone had to stand between them and monsters. Professor Yillen's energy form brightened with understanding. This is why Earth insisted on the non-aggression protocols in the Galactic Accords. Partly, Marcus nodded. But mostly, it's because we recognize something that a lot of predator species don't seem to understand. True strength isn't about being able to kill whoever you want. True strength is about having the power to kill and choosing not to use it. Crystal's claws retracted slowly. You had me at your mercy twice now. You could have ended my life both times. Could have, yes. But you haven't actually threatened anyone in this room yet. You came here for revenge, not to hunt civilians. Marcus's expression softened slightly. There's a difference between justice and murder, Crystal. Your brother crossed that line. You haven't, yet. The Academy security forces had finally managed to override the classroom's emergency locks. The door hissed open to reveal a squad of heavily armed guards, led by Commandant Vexhoran, a distinguished Goliathan officer whose stone-like features were set in grim determination. "Stand down, assassin," Vexhoran commanded, his voice echoing like falling boulders. "You are surrounded and outgunned." But instead of violence erupting, the security team found themselves witnessing something unprecedented. The legendary assassin was bowing formally to the human student, a gesture of respect that no one present had ever seen from his species before. "I understand now why my clutch brother fell," Crystal said, his voice carrying a note of what might have been admiration. "You are not prey animals pretending to be predators. You are something new, predators who chose to protect the prey." Marcus returned the bow with equal formality. "And you're an assassin who chose to seek honorable combat instead of hunting innocents. Maybe there's hope for the Vorthok after all." As the security teams moved in to escort Crystal away, the assassin paused at the classroom doorway. "Human," he called back to Marcus. "Your species intrigues the Shadowfang Council. They wish to understand how prey animals became apex predators, without losing their compassion for the weak." "Tell them it's simple," Marcus replied. "We learned that the strongest predator isn't the one who can kill anything. It's the one who can protect everything." As the academy returned to normal and the students filed out of the damaged classroom, Zara Moonwhisper approached Marcus hesitantly. "Is it true? Are humans really that dangerous?" Marcus considered the question seriously. "Dangerous? Yes, but only two things that threaten what we care about." He smiled, and for the first time since the assassin's arrival, it reached his eyes. "The galaxy has nothing to fear from humanity as long as it remembers one simple rule." "What rule is that?" "Don't hunt our pack," Marcus said simply. "Because if you do, you'll discover that the scariest predator in the universe isn't the one that kills for pleasure or profit or territory. It's the one that kills to protect others, because that predator will never, ever stop coming for you." As news of the incident spread throughout Zenith Academy and beyond, military strategists across the galaxy began to understand something that would reshape interstellar politics for generations to come. Humanity had revealed their true nature, not through displays of superior firepower or advanced technology, but through a simple demonstration of controlled lethality wielded in defense of innocence. The prey animals from the death world called Earth had become something unprecedented. In galactic history, apex predators who used their power to protect the weak rather than exploit them. And that revelation would change everything. Asterisk.